Hi, I'm Mike Bowler. Just about all the Agile methods have some kind of a stand-up meeting or a daily coordination meeting, regardless of what you might call it. And so we're going to talk about how we make that meeting more effective. Everything we're going to talk about today is in the context of Kanban, but this is equally applicable to a Scrum model. And so if you're doing Scrum, I would encourage you to pay attention to these same things. In a Kanban model, we have the three core practices, and the second of those three core practices is to actively manage the workflow. And that's making sure that work is flowing through on a regular basis, that it's getting through at a reasonable time in an efficient and effective and predictable way. And the stand-up is that point in which we are coming together to actually talk about that and verify that it is and fix anything that might need to be fixed as the work is flowing through the team. If you find that your stand-up has devolved into status updates, where I'm telling you what I did yesterday or what I'm planning to do today, then we've missed the point of the meeting. The point is not to have a status update. The point is for us to actively manage the work that's flowing through the team. So let's take a look at a board. If we start off, it's quite common for boards, for teams to have an expedited lane. And if we do have some kind of expedited category of service, then we have to work with that first before we can deal with anything in standard. So as we walk through the pattern, recognize that what we're going to do is we're going to do this once all the way through for expedited, and then we'll do it again all the way through for standard work. Now, it is worth calling out that if your team doesn't have expedited work, then that is preferable, because expedited work causes all kinds of problems with predictability and effectiveness of the system. But for many teams, expedited is a reality. So if you have expedited work, deal with that first, then go on to your standard work. So within each category of service, we're going to walk the board from right to left. And the reason we're going right to left is because we're trying to talk through things in age sequence. So we're talking about the oldest work before we talk about the newest work. Now, it's not a perfect match. The fact that we're walking right to left does not guarantee that we are in fact talking about things in the oldest sequence. It's possible that something that is older is actually further to the left in the board and that other work has been moving its way around. But as a really simple heuristic, if we don't have a quick way of determining how old items are, it's a reasonable approach to say we're going to talk from right to left, and within each column we're going to talk from top to bottom. So our very furthest right column is done. And so the question is there anything we need to talk about in the done column? And my typical answer is no. While there is sometimes value in calling out something as celebrating the fact that we've completed some of the work, that's not actually part of the stand-up. And while I wouldn't discourage teams from calling out things that were a big success, I'm also not going to make a big point of calling them out. Was there anything we want to talk about? Unless somebody explicitly brings it up, I'm going to ignore the done column. We're going to move along to the very last column. As you may have seen in other videos we do, we've deliberately labeled the columns A, B, and C so as we're not giving you the impression that the columns need to be any specific thing. It needs to match your workflow. So in this example, we're giving a workflow that went A, B, and C where that made sense, C being the last thing. So for each item, we're going to look at them individually and we're going to ask questions about them. So on that first work item, really, it could be in one of three different states. It could be that the work is actively in progress. We're working on it right now. We're making progress. We're doing things. Or it could be that that work is blocked, that for some reason outside of our control, we cannot move it forward. It might be that we're blocked waiting for another team, or we're blocked waiting for a piece of equipment, or maybe we're blocked because we have to wait for that governance meeting on Friday. And until Friday comes, there's nothing more we can do because we have to wait for governance. In any case, we need to talk about what's left on the work and what we can do. So we might ask the question of what's here, what's left. Somebody might say, well, I was working on that and I just need another hour or so to finish it off. Great, we can move on. Or somebody might say, there's still a lot of work left. Maybe it would be helpful if somebody helped me. We could get it done faster. And that again is fabulous. We should always be thinking about, could somebody else help you get that work done? Because the older items are the more important items. We want to get them done as quickly as possible. So we might talk about that. If we have work that's blocked, we might as a group start to talk about, well, what could we do to unblock that? Is there something that one of us could do, take an action to go and follow up with another group, or get some equipment, or just do something to move it along? If we're waiting for a meeting, likely there's nothing we can do. And there may be other situations where we just have to sit and wait, but we should be talking about all of the blocked items just to ensure that we're doing our best to move them along quickly. The last possible state is waiting. And this means that this is work that is not actively blocked, that if we had time and capacity, we could work on it right now, we just haven't had the time for it. And this could be that I was working on something and something else came along that was more important, and I had to work on that first. And so this item is just in a waiting queue. It's not actually getting done, but not because it's blocked in any way, but just because we don't have capacity. If we've just got one of those, that's not a big deal. But I every once in a while run across teams that have more than 100 items in progress for a 10 or a 15 person team, and you can be sure that 80 of those are just waiting. Well, that is a problem, and we need to talk about that. So any item that's waiting that we just don't have capacity for, we should be talking through that. How did we even start this if we didn't have capacity to finish it? So we should be getting better at those things and talking through all of them. So we reflect on the three possible states, we reflect on what's left in the work, what we as a team can do to finish this off, to get it moving at least one column to the right, if not all the way to done. Once we've completed that first one, we move on to the next card. We ask all the same questions. Is it blocked? Is it in progress? Is it waiting? What can we as a team do to move it forward today? What can we do to get it unblocked? If anybody helped you, would that be beneficial? Once we finish that column, then we move along to the next column. In this case, we only have one item there. Again, we ask all the same questions. What can we do to move this forward today? Would it help if somebody helped you with this? We move on to the next one. So now we're in the very first column. It may be that at this point we no longer have capacity to work on anything. There might be things that are waiting because the rest of the team is working on things further to the right, and that's okay. But we still need to talk through them. Are things blocked? Are they in progress? Are they waiting? What state are they in? What's left in the work? What can we do? Would it help if somebody helped you? And then we move on to the very last one and we get that one done. Once we've completed everything that was actively in progress at this point, we get back to the ready column. And so we might ask, is it worthwhile talking about anything in the ready column? And the answer is maybe. Maybe there's something in the ready column that has a due date on it. Maybe it's due tomorrow and we haven't started working on it yet. And if that were true, then we probably want to get started on it. There's something we probably want to do, so it might be worthwhile calling that out. But again, I don't normally make a big deal about the ready column. Sometimes there's things in there that we need to talk about, and sometimes there aren't, and it's a bit of a judgment call. Once we've passed the ready column, we've now talked about everything that was on the board. So the big question I would ask now is there anything that anybody on the team is doing that is not on the board? We're not looking to penalize anybody, we're just trying to get stuff visible. So if there is something that anybody is working on, we just say, can you put it on the board? So now we get those items up on the board, so that tomorrow when we go through the same exercise, it's there and we can talk about it and we can find out what that status is. So if you found this useful, a very simple way of walking through stand-up, of making it effective, then come out and check out the rest of the content that we have at improvingflow.com.